Good evening and welcome to the Monday, November 16th Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting. I'd like to turn this meeting over to our chairman, Mr. Melvin McLawhorn.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I'd like to just first of all welcome all of you again to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners meeting evening session. But before we start, let me take a personal privilege to congratulate all of our commissioners that ran for re-election and won. So welcome for another term, and we're certainly happy for you. At this time, we'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to ask Madam Clerk, would you do it, please?
Yes, Chairman McLawhorn.
Yes, present.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Here.
Commissioner Albright. Commissioner Albright.
Commissioner Albright was supposed to be calling in tonight versus the Zoom virtual meeting format.
Yes, he's supposed to be calling in tonight, and he said it was on his car phone. So it may be on his, maybe having problem connecting.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
And Commissioner Albright. Can you hear us? I believe he's on the call. I don't know that he can hear us, but everyone's present.
Thank you very much. We now will have the invocation, and we're going to ask our manager to do the pledge. If you bow your heads. Thank you, kind Father, for this day and all of your rich blessings. We pray that you will guide us this evening to make the decision that will be pleasing to you. We ask it all in your holy name. Amen.
Please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, you have a hand up by Commissioner Floyd Huggins
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
and Commissioner Nunley.
Commissioner Nunley.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the agenda be approved as printed, as submitted, as seen.
Thank you. And Commissioner Nunley, did he second it?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Chairman McLawhorn.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright. Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Madam Clerk, I received a text message from Commissioner Albright. He can hear us. He's *6ing, but he's, for whatever reason, he's not being unmuted, but he can hear us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we now have the presentation of the recognition of Eagle Scout Gavin Donovan. Before doing so, could we have a motion to recognize Eagle Scout?
You have a hand up by Commissioner White
Commissioner White?
and hand up. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a Motion to approve.
Thank you.
A second hand up by Commissioner Nunley.
Commissioner Nunley
I'll second that motion.
has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Manager.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, next on your agenda, you have the recognition of or that item you just voted on, the recognition of the local Boy Scout from 246 here in Pitt County. And this is a recognition for Gavin Donovan. You have a certificate of appreciation that is being awarded to him. I'll show you here on the screen and to the audience, our virtual audience. It reads, certificate of appreciation is awarded to Gavin Donovan for achieving the Eagle Scout Award. For his project, it says he built an excellent fire pit at St. Timothy's Episcopal Church. And this is presented by the Pitt County Board of Commissioners on the 16th day of November 2020, and it will be signed by our chairman, Melvin McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and congratulations, Gavin. Public hearing at this time. We're going to ask Mr. Rhodes if he will come on a Larry and Tracy Lewis rezoning request.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yes, we have two planning related public hearings tonight. The first one is a rezoning request by Tracy and Larry Lewis. And I'll give you a brief staff report beforehand. This is a request for property. It's about 1 3/4 acres that's located on the western side of County Home Road. This is just, as you'll see by this indication, just south of, or this map, just south of the Greenville extraterritorial jurisdiction on County Home Road. You can see the city limits of Greenville right behind it as well. So this area happens to be within the county's planning jurisdiction. This is a site that many of you may be familiar with. It used to be a daycare center, and tonight's rezoning request is actually a downzoning from commercial to residential. So for a little bit more of the details, here's the existing land use categories in that area. Again, most of it's undeveloped farmland. There are some adjacent, one residential subdivision on the opposite side of the road, and then some other scattered residential development along County Home Road. Our land use plan shows this entire area that's in the county's jurisdiction as being suburban residential. You can see on the very southern portion here, there is a small area that coincides with the intersection with Worthington Road, which is a commercial crossroad area. For the suburban residential designation, it's intended to include residential land uses, including single family and manufactured home subdivisions and manufactured home parks, all of which are in that general vicinity there. Since it is suburban in nature, it also allows for other types of uses, such as commercial, which is currently zoned, and office and light institutional or industrial. It is also distinguished by having a greater potential for development and a broader range of uses in that particular area. Our current zoning designation, and you can see this is the only commercial area in this precise area, just a little bit further south near the crossroad commercial area. There are several scattered commercial sites as well. So tonight's request is for rural residential, again, going from general commercial to rural residential, and it's intended to primarily be residential in nature, and that is the intent with this property. In reviewing this, planning staff, we do agree that it is consistent with the land use plan for the county and meets all the locational criteria for the suburban residential land use category. In addition, we also agree that it is reasonable and in the public interest The proposed zoning is primarily intended for residential uses, and that is the intent here. This request was also brought before the planning board at its October meeting. In turn, they recommended approval for this request as well. So with that tonight, Mr. Chair, we have two motions for you to consider: the consistency statement, and also part of that would be that it's reasonable and in the public interest as well. And then second to that would also be to approve the actual request from general commercial to the requested rural residential. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we're open for the public hearing tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. I now declare the public hearing open. Mr. Manager, you have anyone to sign?
Mr. Chairman, we have nobody signed up for this first public hearing.
Thank you very much. Having none signing up, I declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up by Commissioner White.
Commissioner White?
I just wanted to ask James, are they planning to like put a subdivision here, or are they just wanting to rezone it since it was commercial for like tax purposes or something for their land?
Again, we can't really disclose exactly what's going there. Again, the intent, what we know to be, is that it will no longer operate as a commercial institution. In fact, they're looking to have a residential use of that property. There is already a structure there on the property, and the intent is to change that back to residential use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, your hand up by Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the consistency statement as read by Mr. Rhodes and approve the request by Larry and Tracy Lewis.
Thank you. We have a second.
Yes, hand up by Commissioner Nunley.
Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll second the motion.
That's been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk?
And Mr. Chairman, before she calls the roll, if I could just clarify that because it's a public hearing in a virtual meeting, the clerk will receive written comments up to 24 hours following the public hearing. That doesn't prevent you from voting and approving that this evening. And if they are received, they'll be shared with the board.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Yes.
I believe Commissioner Albright can hear us now. And Commissioner Albright? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins?
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams?
Yes, yes, yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rose, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For most of you, this will be a familiar topic. It deals with the Candlewick Sewer Project. This is actually for phase 2. For some of you that may not be familiar, we at least want to give you a little mapping primer beforehand to kind of get you oriented as to where this location is and some of the activities that have gone into making this application for phase 2 before our consultant comes up and gives you all the final report for the proposed service area. So with that, most of you realize that this particular site is closely aligned with Candlewick subdivision, also Pine Ridge subdivision that's to the north, and both of those are located just south of US 264 along Stantonsburg Road. So the area here in the blue and the purple is either the corporate limits or the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Greenville. So with the first phase, there was actually a connection from the existing sewer line in the city out to this site. So about 2 miles worth of force main was installed as part of that, along with a pump station. And then about 16 households were connected to the sanitary sewer service there. Why was that important? There are several septic system failures in this area. These homes were built back in the late 60s, early 70s, and on into the 80s. And there are it's a combination of older systems and poor soils and poor drainage in that particular area. So this is the Candlewick Sanitary District. There are about 119 lots included in that. That's the area bounded in red. And a portion of that was served through phase 1. And again, to orient you, this is Stantonsburg Road, Candlewick subdivision, Pine Ridge subdivision. This is the pump station that was constructed. And again, about 17 occupied lots were served. There are about 28 total that have access to the sewer service. So with this process, anytime we're dealing with community development block grant funds, especially for the infrastructure project, a couple of things have to be considered. Number one, ensuring that we meet a threshold of 51% for low moderate income households, and also a certain percentage of the households also experiencing failures with their septic system. So what's shown on the map right now, these areas in the hatched yellow pattern, those are ones that we know have some issues with failures of their septic systems. So that's one component. The other component is looking at the low moderate income, and those are shown in green here on this particular map. Those were determined by house to house, door to door surveys through our consultant firm, and also our Candlewick area sanitary district officers participated in that as well. And ultimately, this is the area that we're considering as a service district for tonight's public hearing. It is still somewhat tentative. As with last time, as we got the funding, we had to determine exactly which areas could be served based on the amount of money available. So this is the area we're currently looking at, 63 lots that are included in this. I will point out not all of these are within the sanitary district. About a third of them are actually located adjacent to, but outside of the sanitary district. And there's another step that we'll need to go through with the city of Greenville for consideration of those lots, especially with the provision of sewer in that area. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we have Bill Cowan with Withers Ravenel. That group helped us with these door-to-door surveys and will also be compiling the application to submit for consideration. So Bill will come forward and provide you with a full report before the public hearings open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, for that introduction. And as James said, I'm Bill Cowan. I'm with the firm Withers Ravenel, based out of Cary, North Carolina. The public hearing tonight is, my presentation is really twofold. The first part will be to talk about the CDBG program in North Carolina in a generic sense. And secondly, I'll outline the specific project that we'll be applying for on your behalf by no later than November 23rd. And so, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Manager, Counselor, it's my pleasure to be here tonight. This public hearing will provide an explanation and description of the 2020 North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, for short DEQ, which I'll refer to from now on, and the Community Development Block Grant, Infrastructure Grant, or CDBGI for short. We are present to discuss the purpose of the public hearing for the county CDBGI funding application. The purpose of the hearing is to obtain citizens' views and to allow for the public to discuss funding proposals and answer any questions that they may have. The public hearing will cover the county's community development needs, development of proposed activities, a review of program compliance before the submission of a funding application to the state of North Carolina. The purpose, the county proposes to request funding for CDBGI for a phase 2 sewer extension project, as James outlined a few minutes ago. The purpose of the CDBGI program in general is to improve the quality of life for low to moderate income persons by providing safe, clean environmental and clean drinking water through water and sewer infrastructure improvements and extensions of that service. Specifically, it is to benefit residents who are at least 51% low to moderate income, as defined by HUD, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's also to perform eligible activities to minimize displacement and provide displacement assistance if necessary. And Madam Clerk, just for the record, there is no plan to displace any residents as a part of this project if this grant application is approved. And that could be entered into the record, please. For the fiscal year 2020, the CDBGI funding available to the state of North Carolina is $25.2 million. The maximum available grant is $2 million over a 3-year period. Applications for funding will be received by no later than November 23rd, 2020. The CDBG program in general is able to fund a wide variety of community development activities. The state of North Carolina has chosen to fund several activities: water and sewer infrastructure, neighborhood revitalization, COVID-19 related projects, which I understand you have applied for in Pitt County, and economic development activities where there is a job creation or retention involved. The infrastructure program or CDBGI program can fund a wide range of water and sewer projects, including but not limited to, in the water category, projects that resolve water loss in the distribution system, to extend public water to areas with contaminated wells, to extend water line areas where there are dry wells, to provide assistance with water with low pressure in water systems, and to merge two or more water systems into a regional system, or to rehabilitate or replace a water treatment plant. In the wastewater category, projects that resolve inflow and infiltration into a collection system, projects to extend public sewer to areas with failed septic systems, which is what this project is entailed, and projects that rehabilitate a wastewater treatment plant to allow a greater efficiency or compliance with the regulations. Now for the specific project that we're here tonight to discuss. The county is seeking an amount of funds not to exceed $2 million to fund the CDBGI Phase 2 sewer project. The purpose of the county's request is to extend sewer in the areas in and around Candlewick subdivision to address a large number of failing septic systems. The project is expected to extend service to the following areas: Bunch Lane, Stantonsburg Road, Kings Road, Rosemont Drive. However, only one house on Rosemont at the intersection of King and Rosemont is included because of the survey data. Candlewick Drive, Abbey Lane, Chatham Way, and Old London Road. Through a survey, it was determined that 53.4% of the residents in this area were low to moderate income, based on a survey conducted by our staff. And I already mentioned the roads that are included in that. The range of activities covered by CDBGI funds for Pitt County CDBGI Phase 2 Sewer Extension Project would include environmental review, design, construction administration and observation, legal activities, surveying, and grant administration. If Pitt County is awarded a CDBGI grant, the county will be required to adhere to federal requirements and other federal regulations, which include, and in talking to one of your staff members, I think you've already agreed to this because of your COVID-19 projects, but I will list those. It's Americans with Disabilities Act, Davis-Bacon and related labor acts, citizens participation plan, equal opportunity plan, fair housing plan, language access plan, relocation assistance plan, and section 3 plan, which relates to local employment of low to moderate income individuals. The state of North Carolina requires that the county receive that if the county receives CDBG grant funding, the county will certify compliance with the requirements of the general displacement and relocation policy for the CBG program. In the past, the county has applied and received has received CDBG funding for the following projects. 2014, the county received $3 million for phase 1 Candlewick CDBGI project. 2014, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency Single Family Rehabilitation Program, $170,000. In 2014 and 15, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency Urgent Repair Program, $50,000. Same program in 15 and 16, $100,000. Same program in 16 and 17, $75,000. Then in 2017, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency Essential Single Family Repair Program, $150,000. 2018, same program, $175,000. 2018 Disaster Recovery Program, $1 million. And then 19 and 20, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency Urgent Repair Program, $100,000. The county will submit its CDBG application for phase 2 sewer extension project no later than November 23rd. The application will be available for review during normal business hours after November 23rd. Additional information is available from the Pitt County Planning Department through James Rhodes. Should you have any complaints or grievances regarding this project and this public hearing, they should be addressed to Kimberly Hines, Clerk to the Board, 1717 West 5th Street, Greenville, North Carolina, within 10 business days of this hearing, and a written response will be provided within 10 days if practical. Mr. Chairman, with that, you can open the floor for discussion and questions from the public.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen and Mr. Rowe. I now declare the public hearing open. Mr. Manager, we have anyone to sign up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 2 people who signed up prior to the meeting and submitted written comments. I'll read those if you will allow. The first is from Rita Leggett, who is a resident in Candlewood, and she states in her written comment, she says, I'm a resident of Candlewick Estates serving on both the CSAD, which is the Candlewick Area Sanitary District, and the CHA, which I assume is the Candlewick Homeowners Association. I'm very much in support of the phase 2 of the CASD. Applying for grant monies is needed to continue for the progress of resolving more of the remaining sewer issues that exist in the district. Commissioners, thank you for your continued support and consideration. Signed, Rita Leggett. Then your second statement is from Lynn Shine, who is a citizen, and she says in her written comments, please help achieve the CASD goal. We have been residents in Candlewick Estates for 46 years and have watched the ongoing growing need for better sewer. The forward-thinking of the commissioners realized our needs several years ago. We began our own sewer district, and so many of our original neighbors tried to provide input through our own efforts for a sewer system. We support the CSAD goal. First grant monies were used for phase 1 and will provide the basic needs for so many more households, businesses, etc., than just our own. This opportunity to seek additional grant dollars for phase 2 is a necessity for ours and others in the surrounding area of Pitt County. Thank you. Every bit of help you can give and guide. Signed, Lynn and Richard Shine. And those are the only 2 people, unless there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak otherwise.
Hey, Mr. Manager, anyone in the audience would like to speak?
Nobody's coming to the podium, Mr. Chairman.
I hear none. I declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the commissioners?
Okay, you have hand up from Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Okay, Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward.
Getting, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to accept the 3 recommendations. One is to adopt the attached resolution for the CDBG-1 application, to approve, number 2, to approve the budget amendment, and 3, to authorize the chairman to approve minutes for this public hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
That's been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Albright. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We now will continue with our public hearing on Cam Carbon, which we come on the public hearing authorizing resolution for Pitt area transit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to you and to members of the board. This is our annual grant application, ultimately from the Federal Transit Administration, that is suballocated from the North Carolina Department of Transportation for 5311 and 5339 State Rural and Small Urban Capital Program, which includes vehicle and related equipment. The administrative portion covers administrative salaries and other supplies, and is managed through the Community Transportation Program funding application. As part of an application process, a public hearing must be held to gain input from members and for those who seek to offer comments. Pitt Area Transit is seeking $179,405 in administrative funding, requiring at this time a local match of 20%, which equals $44,852 for a grand total of $224,257. Also on the capital side, Pitt Area Transit is seeking $93,587, also requiring a 20% local match. This is just a bit different than what it typically has been. Historically, with the administrative grant, the state commits to 5% of the 20% match. And also on the capital side, they commit 10 of the 20%. What they are sharing with us this year is with the current state of the North Carolina DOT budget that they are asking local governments to be prepared to possibly fund the entire 20% local match next year, should they not be in a position to be able to participate. So with that, I'll be glad to take questions, or if it pleasures the board, to open for public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin. I now declare the public hearing open. Mr. Manager, anyone to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we have nobody signed up, and there's anybody in the audience who'd like to come forward, they may do so. I do not believe there's anybody here to speak on this matter.
Thank you very much. I now declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the commissioner?
There's a hand up by Commissioner Nunley.
Commissioner Nunley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me move that we concur with the staff recommendation to adopt and apply for the NCDOT grant funding. For
Thank
passage.
you.
Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
I second the motion.
Has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very, very much. We now have a public address to the board. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, I have two people who are pre-signed up on public address to the board. One was only in a listen-only mode. That's Dr. Eve Angel Savage. I'm not sure if she's on the line or not, but again, no request to speak, but listen only. The second, we have Justin Whitehurst, who would like to speak on Caitlin's Courage Foundation and the board. If we could, and if the county attorney could read the statement on public address to the board while they pull him up.
Okay, very good.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes comments on all matters of public concern. If you'll please state your name and address prior to speaking, I'll keep your time at 3 minutes per speaker.
I guess I'm up. This is Judson Whitehurst with Caitlin's Courage. I'm the chairman. The board is made up mostly of volunteers within the family. On May the 13th at 9:43 p.m., 2019, I found my daughter murdered at the end of my driveway by a confused young man. And when this happened, these tragedies not only rocked our family, but they rocked his family as well. And after we took a little time to heal, we tried to figure out a way to maybe find a vehicle to get us to a point where no other parent goes through what we went through. It's something that will never heal and never go away, but we would like the opportunity to ensure that happens. And this is not going to stop. What we've done is not going to stop everything. It is a tool. What we, in the short version is, we have found a way to take technology and marry three components to each other. One being the typical ankle monitor, second being the app on the phone, and then there's another stalker app. And I have learned an awful lot about domestic violence since this has happened to us. And it had taught us or found us, and I use people like John Gard, Sheriff Dance was a huge help, Judge Galen Brady, Les Robinson, and I could go on, and all our representatives. So we go up to Raleigh and ask for $150,000 because we were going to run the program in Pitt County. Well, what we found out that they liked the idea so much, they gave us $3.5 million to start this pilot project. And our theory is this project is going to be so successful, we're hoping and praying it's going to sweep this nation. And it started right here in this wonderful Pitt County. So if there's some questions or something that that you guys would like to ask, I know I ran through this because I know I don't want to go over my 3 minutes here. But Caitlin'sCourage.com will explain mostly everything. But this wonderful county that I live in and was raised in stepped up to the plate for my family and his family and helped. And they did it with a huge amount of passion. And that's what we want to carry forward.
I want to thank you very much for those comments, Mr. Whitehurst. Generally, we do not comment during public hearing, public address to the board, but we certainly appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for doing so, sir.
My pleasure. And thank you for hearing me out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all we have on public addresses of the board. So next is your items to report.
Thank you very much. At this time, we have the Public Health Deputy Director, Ms. Amy Hannon. We're going to ask if she will come forward at this time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Dr. Silvernail does send his regrets tonight. He had another commitment, so we decided we would divide and conquer. So I will give the COVID-19 update report. I first want to start out letting you know about a COVID staff exposure that we recently had. Actually, last Thursday, November the 12th, we learned that an employee who works in a shared workspace at the health department tested positive for COVID-19. Our management staff quickly responded and alerted all potentially exposed staff and then sent them home to quarantine. Employees who were sent home to quarantine also included some employees who worked in other county departments because they were attending a mandatory onboarding orientation session at that time. The risk of contracting COVID due to this exposure was low due to all the employees' adherence to the county masking policy. And our nursing staff provided testing today for all of these exposed individuals, and we hope that we'll know the results of the test tomorrow. We did send a press release out on last Thursday, quickly stating that we were temporarily suspending services. We did need to sanitize the work area and reschedule some of the appointments. We were able to utilize employees who were cross-trained to reschedule some appointments. So that let us know right there that it is important to have cross-trained employees to step in when needed. I also want to give you an update on Pitt County's latest COVID data as of today. As of today, this afternoon, our total case count for COVID-19 is 7,041. We have estimated that the recovered count is 6,288, and we have an active count of 709, and that is cases that are less than 15 days old that are considered to still be active. Our estimated case counts that are active per 1,000 residents of Pitt County is 3.8 per 1,000 population. We still have a total of 44 deaths. We haven't had any additions to that in a couple of weeks. And our case fatality rate is 0.6. The percent of COVID-19 testing that are returning positive for Pitt County is 6.6. We are lower than the state. The state of North Carolina in all testing, the positivity rate is 8.1%. Just to give you an overview of how the demographics of these cases, this is kind of holding steady of what Dr. Silvernail has been reporting the last few weeks. Right now, the two age groups where this is occurring the most often is among the 18 to 24-year-olds as well as the 25 to 49-year-olds. Both are 33% of the cases each. 55% of the cases have occurred among whites and 18% among African Americans and 25% among other races. 89% are non-Hispanic and 56% are female. The breakdown of the death demographics, currently there are no deaths among the 25 to 49-year-old category. 16% of deaths among 50 to 64-year-olds, 32% among 65 to 74-year-olds, 52% among 75-year-olds and greater, and there's our most vulnerable population is why those deaths are occurring there. 95% of deaths were to non-Hispanics, and 52% of the deaths were among males. We're continuing to have very robust testing in Pitt County, testing among all Pitt County sites, and that's not just the health department, it's every site in Pitt County, every institution that is performing testing, including drugstores. There are over 5,000 tests conducted weekly, so we're more than meeting what the state has asked us to do as far as testing to cover the county. The health department continues to test weekly. It's still a drive-through opportunity on Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the health department, as well as Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And as of last Friday, November the 13th, the health department had performed 8,658 tests since July. And our director of nursing, Dr. Hardy, had updated that total today. So our nursing staff and all support staff have been extremely busy with testing. The positivity rate among the testing at this testing site is 7.9%, but that's a little skewed because not only Pitt County residents utilize this site, we have other county residents to come through. And out of the 8,658 tests, there were 683 that were positive, making up the 7.9%. Also want to remind you that U.S. Department of Health and Human Services surge site that Dr. Silvernail had mentioned in his last report is now operating at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And per the state's request, our staff, we assisted in getting that site stood up and operational. And with the initial promotion, we did send out a news release on behalf of this site last Friday. But this site is now self-sufficient. Our staff have done what they were asked to do by the state, and it is now being run by the National Guard. I do want to send a special thank you out to staff members, Dion Dockery. Dion is our outreach team supervisor, and she was the site manager for this particular testing site, as well as Portia Mazzell, who is assistant to Dr. Hardy, and she has been real instrumental in all the testing sites in their operation. So hats off to both of them for getting this site up and running. As far as a vaccine, you know, you've seen that in the news lately. There are a couple of vaccines that are being promoted. It is nearing availability. We do not have a confirmed date yet when that will be available. We do know that it will initially be distributed among risk, based upon risk, which first will be frontline healthcare workers, first responders, older adults, adults with comorbidities, and then the general population after that. Next, I wanted to remind you all and the general population that Governor Cooper's extended executive order 176 did take effect this past Friday, which was Friday the 13th. It does limit mass gatherings to 10 inside and no more than 50 outside. And of course, these are individuals not living within the same household. This was due to an uptick in cases across the state. And we have uptick just a little bit. Not quite as much as others across the state, but we have contributed to that increase. This was also in an effort to protect individuals during the Thanksgiving gatherings that will occur next week. If gatherings must occur, we do ask that individuals remember the 3 W's. We can't say that enough, which is wash hands, wash them often, wear a mask, and wait 6 feet apart whenever you're near individuals that are not within your same household. As far as gatherings, remember that they are safer outside if individuals choose to go ahead with a gathering. If not able to do that outside, please open windows for ventilation. It's also recommended to cohort households together. If you do have individuals that would be gathering at one area, and seat them at tables that are adequately spaced apart. And then designated one person to serve food, so no serving utensils are not, cross-contaminated from person to person. And then finally, please stay home if you're sick and not, participate in any kind of gathering. In addition to all the COVID-19 testing that we're doing, we also are getting ready to implement drive-through flu vaccination clinics. Dr. Hardy, our Director of Nursing, just recently created a flu community vaccination plan that will serve populations that are finding it difficult to get vaccines due to transportation and other barriers. These clinics will soon start and will be implemented across the county, much like the testing sites for COVID started in July. It'll be in some of those same sites. Contract staff as well as some of our staff will man these clinics. And actually a kickoff for these clinics will begin in Bethel this Friday. There will be a ribbon cutting for the new Bethel Youth Activity Center. So we're able to partner with this event and offer drive-through flu shots at this event on Friday. Other sites that will be coming up will be Awesome Radio that's located on Memorial Drive, Cornerstone Missionary Baptist Church, Farmville Community Center, and the Greenville Housing Authority on Broad Street, and then the Winterville Community Volunteer Fire Station. And we do recommend that individuals, we strongly encourage them to be vaccinated against the flu. Although uncommon, it is possible to be co-infected with both COVID-19 and flu at the same time. And just to remind everybody, last year, during our flu season, there were over 12,000 cases in North Carolina of flu, and 186 deaths. And so we certainly don't want to contribute to what we have going on with COVID. So we highly recommend individuals to be vaccinated against flu. And then hopefully when COVID vaccine is available and made available to the general population, to be vaccinated with that as well. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Mr. Manning, the question, hands up.
Chairman, we have a hand up by Commissioner Floyd Huggins and Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Okay, Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy, can you identify the areas for the uptick? The
areas in the county?
Yes.
I don't have that broken down by zip code. I can go back and look to see if the state has that available.
No, I mean, can you just say where the increase in where there was an outbreak or whatever to increase the cases of COVID?
It's county-wide. It's not just one area that's contributed to the uptick, and it's actually statewide. And the county has contributed to that as well. We have not climbed quite as rapidly as some other counties have, but we still have more of a rise of cases than we've had in a while. We've been holding steady, but we do have a small uptick.
Okay, so our nursing homes and those services, or there's no uptick in those areas right
Well,
now?
they have contributed to that, but there again, it is across the board as far as positives.
I mean,
and I can go back and look at that, Commissioner Huggins, to let you know if we're seeing have a breakdown of where they are occurring.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Ms. Hatton, I'd like to know how extensive is the tracing, or is the county still tracing? Could you share?
Are we still doing tracing? Is that?
I want to know about the tracing.
Yes, ma'am. We are still doing contact tracing. We have our staff are serving as investigators, case investigators, and once we learn of cases, we call, interview the cases, and then we refer the information to our contact tracers that are hired through the state. I believe we have 8 that are board now, I believe. I have to go back and check and see what our last count of contact tracers. And then they take it from there and they make the phone calls to the contacts that were identified through the case investigation. But yes, ma'am, we are continuing to do contact tracing.
How deep is the tracing? If you
Probably a couple, well, I guess it just depends what we find out during the investigation as to how far we can go. Keep in mind that a lot of times when we call these individuals, we never get an answer. We may call them 3, 4, 5, 6 times and we may not get an answer. So it may stop there. So it's really, each case is different. But we'll go as far as it will allow us to go, as long as we have a good contact.
Well, I know of an outbreak over here, and there were children involved, and they were not tested. These are young children. And I was curious, not only was there one test, there were more than one person who had COVID in the same household and family. And they were at different times. And of course, the people were sent back home and they're still moving around. So I was very concerned about that.
Right. Unfortunately, with it being so widespread, we know that there are individuals who have been told to quarantine and they may not. We're just hoping that they will. But we do know that that does happen. And not everybody that has been exposed ends up being tested. Sometimes our healthcare provider determines that they do not need to be tested depending on the situation. So it's hard to say whether the situation you're talking about, testing should have been conducted. We would need to know more details about that.
Well, my concern is that at first there was a death. The person was found dead, and then the house right across the street had COVID, and then the one right down the street, a couple of houses, he tested positive as well. But it concerns me that these cases exist, and of course, you see people still moving around. So I just wanted to ask about it because the pandemic isn't going away and it's upticking and it's getting worse. So
Right.
the community is not, when they're told that they're positive, they're not doing what they're told.
Yeah. We know a good portion of people are following through. We see more masks than no mask, and I hope more and more will follow through with the are told to quarantine. But we do agree, we want individuals to follow through.
Mr. Manager, is there any other hands?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you have Commissioner Nunley's hand up.
Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Amy, for coming tonight and for your presentation and for your strong messaging. Clearly, it's disheartening to hear that we've got a slight uptick. Hopefully we can keep it, following your strong advice, keep that uptick as flat as possible as we enter the cold weather months. So wanted to ask you, maybe you don't have this data now, but I wonder if we could maybe have that for future meetings. We've got the data for the active case count, 709, and we've got the percent positivity rate that does represent an uptick. I wonder if you have historical data on where our active case count's been over the last, say, month.
We don't have that. We would have to check with the state to see if we can get that information through our disease surveillance system. I can check to see whether or not that's available, though.
Yeah, just, I think from my eyes, and I think it's important for the community to see where we are with active cases and, how strong we are on our, again, independently, each and every one of us can have a really strong impact on keeping that number as low as possible. And I'd just like to maybe see how we're tracking as a community, trying to keep those cases as low as possible as we enter November, December.
Right. And the 709 that I had mentioned earlier, those are the newest cases that have occurred over the last 14 days. Okay. So I think we'd have to go back further than that. I don't know that information will be entered into our state system yet, but I'll check and see what we might be able to find out.
Okay. Thanks, Amy.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Any other hands, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. Amy, I'd like to thank you for your fine presentation. Just as a final question, the Sycamore Hill Baptist Church site, what is the turnaround time in getting the results there?
According to the lab that's being used, I believe it's eTrue North that is doing this through Precision Lab, I believe is the name of it, but they say 3 to 5 days. I'm not sure if it's taken that long or not. The site was just implemented here last week. There was a soft opening just to help them get set up. They did not do too many last week, but I think this past Friday they had 50 to show up. So I guess we can find out, because we're supposed to get those results back through our system as well from those laboratories. So too early to tell now the turnaround time, but that's something we could give you at a later date.
Okay, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to ask Sam Kroom if he will come forth on the tax collection report.
Good evening, Chairman McClawhorn, Commissioners.
Manager Elliott, it's good to be with y'all tonight. Tonight, I bring you the October 2020 collection report for the fiscal year to date, July 1 through October 31st. The combined collection rate for real and personal property is 66.31%. The combined rate 1 year ago for real and personal property was 63.92%. Pitt County Tax Administration still pursues all outstanding taxes due to the county. It is my recommendation that you approve the report as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Croom. What's the pleasure of the commissioners?
Give hand up Commissioner Nunley and Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Commissioner Nunley?
Move that we accept the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Second.
That's been moving properly. Second, Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes, 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 yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very much. Now I have the monthly financial report. Mr. Brian Barnett, if you would.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. I'm happy to be here in person for this meeting. I'm still on the Zoom like the last meeting. We have reached the third of the first of the fiscal year. So I'm going to present to you the report as of October 31st, 2020. On the general fund side, we have collected 43.7% and we have spent 30.2%. Our expense to revenue ratio for this fiscal year is doing better than it was last year, primarily due to the fact that we do not have the Warren Farm property on the books this fiscal year. And our revenues are well within line in lieu of the COVID pandemic. On the solid waste fund, we have brought in 52.43% and we have spent 26.61%. And on our EMS fund, we have brought in 49.78% and we have spent 36.29%. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. What's the pleasure of the board?
Hand up by Commissioner Ward
Commissioner Ward
and Commissioner Nunley.
and Commissioner Nunley, in that order. Commissioner Ward.
Am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Okay. I move for approval of the October 2020 monthly financial report as presented.
Thank you. Commissioner Nunley
Second.
has been moving properly. Second, Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We now move to the manager's report. Scott, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things to report. Your next meeting dates for the month of December. You'll have a regular meeting on Monday, December the 7th at 9 a.m. Then that night, we will have the quasi judicial hearings for the planning department beginning at 6 p.m. Obviously, the 9 a.m. meeting will be a virtual meeting. The 6 p.m. meeting will be in person at the Ag Center in the Mark W. Owens Auditorium.
Mr.
Then you'll
Manager,
have-
Mr. Manager,
Yes, sir.
on that quasi judicial hearing for the 7th, we just noted from the our health assistant director, deputy director, that now is the governor is calling for 10 people on the inside of a building. Now, my question is, would that affect seemingly our quasi judicial hearing having more than 10 people?
No, technically, as a unit of local government, we are exempt from that, but we will make every effort to keep that number, keep everybody distance. We'll have, when the speakers come in, we'll keep them outside until they need to come in. We will keep the number of people in the auditorium to the absolute minimum. And then to try to as closely conform with that standard. But again, as a unit of local government, we're not mandated to follow that. We try to make that, as even like in this auditorium here, to the biggest degree we can. We try to make that a goal so that we are making a good effort to show the public that even though we are government, we are still trying to comply.
Okay, thank you.
Your next regular meeting will be December 21st at 6 p.m. That'll be your third Monday in the month of December. On item B, just want to report that the NCACC, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners President Ronnie Smith has made an appointment to the Food Systems Resiliency Task Force. He's appointed Commissioner Floyd Huggins to serve on that task force. I have a hand up, maybe the item I just spoke about, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to remind the Chair about potentially moving that first meeting in December to the 6 p.m. if possible, due to some scheduling conflicts, if we could. Certainly at the board's pleasure.
Commissioner White has her hand up. I think she may be want to speak on the same issue.
Commissioner White.
Yes, Chairman. If that is a discussion or motion by Commissioner Fitzpatrick, I would like to second that. Move the next meeting to 6 p.m. and I have a scheduling conflict that morning also, and that way we can do the meeting and the judicial hearing all at one time.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask the clerk, do we have anything scheduled for that morning meeting that would conflict with moving it tonight?
Okay.
So let her look real quick. We've got what's in the system already. We may be clear, but I just want to make sure there's nothing. Otherwise, we can advertise it for 6 p.m. that night and do both at the same time. We good? Yeah, it appears that we're good to do that. So if the board will, Madam Attorney, would we need to vote on that? Would you suggest to change that?
Yes, if Commissioner Fitzpatrick intended that to be a motion, I believe that you already have a second by Commissioner White, and then the chairman could call for a vote once he confirms that motion in second.
That is correct. I would like to make the motion to move the meeting from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, that's been moved by Commissioner Fitzpatrick and second by Commissioner White. At this time, we're ready to vote. Madam Clerk.
So I guess I do have one question, because we've already advertised for the quasi judicial hearing to begin at 6. How would we do? So we would have our regular meeting in person over at the Ag Center, and then.
Well, I think you'd have this quasi judicial first because you advertised it, and then close that meeting and then hold your regular meeting after, unless the attorney has a different opinion.
No, the quasi judicial hearing is at 6 o'clock or as soon as it can be reached. And so you can put it on the beginning of your agenda, but you can open it up as a regular meeting and include it.
Okay.
You would just need all members present for your meeting and your quasi judicial proceeding. No one would participate remotely for the regular meeting.
Right. So there'll be, okay, good.
Okay, Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item to report, item C, just want to give a report on our Employee United Way campaign that we held here with our workforce. We raised $28,766 through employee payroll giving, as well as through our basket raffle, as well as other, the tax department had a luncheon fundraiser that was successful as well. This is, since 2016, we raised about 25,700, 17, 25,006, 18, 23, 4, and 19, 27, about 3. So 28,000, almost $28,800 is the highest we've had in the past 5 years. I'd like to thank the workforce for participating for this worthy cause. On item D, just had a conversation with Dr. Silvernell regarding the ongoing COVID reports and wanted to see if the board wanted to have any thought of having those once a month, the first meeting of each month, or would you prefer to continue to have him come each and every time you meet? He was suggesting maybe once a month unless things got bad, we had the second wave, or the numbers indicated a greater need. He's willing to continue to come every meeting, but thought maybe that some of the information was getting kind of repetitious in some respects. So we're seeking the board's input on that. And Chairman McLaughlin, we have a hand up by Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
I think that would be fine. One report a month, and you can decide which would be best. And then if he needs to come, then he can just let us know if he needs to come a second time.
Okay. Hand up by Commissioner Nunley.
Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you. I'm not sure it's necessary that Dr. Silvernell come. I would like to continue to receive support during our regular scheduled meetings, just in case, just to have it on there. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I do think it's important for the public to just, touch in. I think messaging is important. So it doesn't necessarily, Amy's here tonight and I thought that was fine, but I do think it is important that the county's reps have an opportunity to question at our regularly scheduled meetings during the COVID crisis.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, hand up by Commissioner Floyd Huggins, and then Commissioner Ward again.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
I was going to say if we're going to go to monthly, I would suggest the second meeting. Then I have a question. Is he holding media conferences anymore?
Yes.
Is he still holding those?
I believe it's weekly on Tuesdays? Wednesday. Yes.
So the public would have an opportunity to have information
as
on
the
a
media, yes, as the media participates in those and as they report the information. It's not a Zoom type meeting or report. He's doing it in person. If they choose to show up in person, they receive the information.
So how could we get that information out?
Well, we rely on the news media if they find the numbers are worthy of, I guess, reporting.
But yeah, but we're at the mercy of the media to report what they want to report, right?
Yes, ma'am. Amy, could the health department do a weekly press release? Or I guess you're saying the website for the coronavirus 19. Yeah, the website is updated daily. Can you come to the podium real quick? Well, let Amy speak on this real quickly.
Yes, I just want to remind you that we still have the county's coronavirus website that we're continuing to update that daily with any new information. So that's also a resource that can be used. The media sessions that we're holding, we're stopped doing them more like a press conference, just given the time for the TV stations and newspaper and radio to come and interview Dr. Silvernell, and that's continuing to go well. We're doing those at the health department. And we generally have at least two TV stations and newspapers to attend, and then they report out the stories. So we've gotten good coverage from that. And then of course, there's our social media account too.
I do want to say that even though information is on the website, majority of the public doesn't go to the website to get information.
Right,
So-
and they are still calling our hotlines too. We have 4 phone lines that continuing to stay pretty active, that we have stood up in March, and we're continuing to make those available to the public. So that is another avenue.
So I'm just concerned that I want, as Chris said, the public, we want the public to be aware of what, how we are progressing, whether we are having an increase in cases or decrease in cases, which would be good to know too. I think I would suggest the second meeting so that we would have all the information from the beginning of the month reported. If we're gonna go to one-time reporting to us.
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up by Commissioner Ward and Commissioner White.
Okay, Commissioner White, then we'll get Commissioner Ward. Commissioner White.
If it's okay, I would like to second Commissioner Ward's recommendation to go to one report a month from Dr. Silvernail, if he feels that's okay. And given that he's doing weekly media sessions and that the information is available on their website and Facebook, I think that once a month right now, unless things get worse, would be proficient. We can always call him and ask him to come to the second meeting if we feel it's necessary. And we can take Commissioner Floyd Huggins' suggestion and go with the second meeting of the month if that works with everyone else.
Okay.
And then Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
That was my motion, and she seconded it and she added to it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. And I think that, anytime that he feels that he needs to come back, if there's an uptick or even if there's a downtick and we want to hear a report from him, I think it should be left up to him. But I really think that he's being, there's a lot being demanded of him relative to this. And I think one face-to-face report once a month to us and our citizens, and then to post an update on our website.
Mr. Chairman, you have Commissioner Nunley's hand up again.
Commissioner Nunley.
I'll just, I think the important thing here is that we continue to be able to message in our public health department, be able to continue to message in the appropriate way to our public. If that, we certainly don't want to add a burdens on the health director, especially as we're getting the vaccine. So as long as, what I'm concerned about, I'll just say it, is if everyone's getting COVID fatigue, everyone's getting tired of dealing with it, does us stepping this back send the wrong message? And not to say that on the ground that it makes any difference, it might even help. I just want to make sure if we do kind of go away from having this standing meeting, as we know with a lot of organizations, a lot of times having the standing meeting just is helpful in that that it's going to be there. But if we do walk away from that and we just have the one meeting, I want to be sure that our public messaging stands strong and that we continue to communicate in a vigorous, a proactive manner, not a passive, we're being covered manner, but in a proactive manner to make sure that our public's in the safest position possible as we enter a pretty, likelihood for a spike as we're seeing across the country right now. So I'm fine with agreeing with the balance of the commission if we feel like that's the way to go and it's going to be smart. But I don't want us to take a passive approach on our messaging. I think we need to continue to be proactive and continue to be engaged with both the public and with our public health department and do everything we can. And if we're in the way by having them there, let's not do it. But I don't want it to be taken from the media or anyone else that we're stepping back from this. I think it's easy to, who knows the way it's going to be taken, but that's my concern. And I just set it out there, but I'm happy to go along with only having one a month if it can be assured and we see it that we're continuing to be proactive with our messaging.
Thank you, Mr. Nunn. Ms. Manning, anybody else?
Mr. Chair, that's all the hands you have up. So just, you have the motion on the floor.
Well, we do have a motion on the floor, but let me just say this. I think I agree with Chris in that sense that it's very important that we stay on top of this. This is a very serious virus that's going on. And it has no respect to anybody. But I think too, Mr. Manager, if for some reason during the course of that week prior to our meeting, if something should be catastrophic that comes up, that we may need to, for some reason, have him a representative from his office to come to talk to us about this specific situation.
Yes, sir. We'll be sure to do that.
I think we'll need to keep that open. Okay, thank you very much. At this time, Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Items for consent.
Mr. Chairman, I had one other item. If you just give me just a moment. This is not on the agenda, but we did have a request by the NCACC, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, regarding the solicitation of proposed federal legislative goals. And Janice is going to cover that real briefly.
Good evening again. We did successfully submit our statewide legislative goals to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners last September and are currently going through that legislative goals process now. They have now solicited, as of the end of last week, any federal legislative goals. We have not in the past traditionally submitted federal legislative goals, but I didn't know if the board would feel differently this year. If you do choose to submit goals, they have to be submitted to the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners by November 30th. So you will not have a meeting again before then. What I would suggest is that if anybody has any federal legislative goals that they're aware of, they can share those this evening if they're aware of them. If they need additional time to think about them, I would ask the board to allow folks to give time to think about those goals, submit them to the chairman, and then authorize the chairman to direct me to submit any goals from the board prior to November 30th.
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up by Commissioner Floyd Huggins and Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins?
Well, I was going to speak on something else, but I will speak on what Janice just said. I was on the call, and I want to say that Janice did an excellent job in presenting the goal that Pitt County supported and submitted, rather. So she did an excellent job in speaking on behalf of that. I would suggest that just what she said, maybe that would work. But then I would ask her to look at what we have been talking about and see if there's some issues there that we could present, that she could pick out, that would be a goal that we all could get behind or support and then send it out to us. So I would suggest that. My other reason for with my hand up was to go back and ask you about meeting dates. I noticed December 21st is an evening meeting. So do we want to keep that as an evening meeting since we changed our morning one to an evening meeting? So those are the three things that I wanted to bring up.
We're going to look at the December 21st meeting. If it's possible, if we have a very light agenda or a few items, we could even cancel that meeting. Or if you wanted to move it to a 9 a.m. meeting as well, if you want to flip it. So
that's what I was wondering, if we wanted to flip it.
James, do we have any public hearings you're aware of that you've got advertised or set for the 6 p.m.? Plan director is saying we have potentially a public hearing that is needed for the night meeting on the 21st, but it's tentative right now. I guess technically we could wait until the 7th to make that determination. James? Yes. Okay. If you want to wait until your next regular meeting on the 7th, then we can then determine whether you want to change the time on that or even just cancel the meeting altogether.
Okay.
If that works.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up from Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward.
If it's appropriate, I would like to make a motion that we accept the items on the consent agenda.
Okay. Has been moved that we accept the items on the consent agenda by Commissioner Ward. And do we have a second?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner White.
Commissioner White.
I'll second that.
Has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We now enter the items for decision, contract for lawn care and maintenance. Tim Corley. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm glad to be here with you tonight. We recently bid out services for lawn care and maintenance for Pitt County facilities. We broke the groupings down into two different groups. One was our main facilities, which included the campus that I'm standing on, as well as the North Campus, as well as the Alice Keene District Park and animal shelter area. And then the second section of groupings was mainly solid waste facilities, the convenience sites, as well as the transfer station and the Warren Farm. The bids opening was held on Wednesday, October 21st. We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting where we clearly explained our expectations in the bidding process. We received 6 bids, and the lowest bidder on both those proposals was Carlson's Landscaping. The total bid on proposal 1 was $163,310, and for proposal 2 was $64,605. We met with Mr. Carlson, the owner of the company, who's actually here with me tonight. I'll introduce him here in a minute to talk about the bid, as well as what our expectations were for the coming year as it comes to lawn maintenance and maintenance control. We also called his references that were listed on his submittal, and all those checked out. We were very pleased. All the companies that we called were very pleased with their work. The contract is a 1-year contract with 2 2-year renewal periods. So a total of 5 years is possible with this contract. And tonight we're asking you to approve these contracts with Carlson's Landscaping for lawn care and maintenance, and allow the county manager to execute the contracts. I'll introduce if Mr. Carlson will come up. I just wanted everyone to see his face. Richard Carlson is the owner of Carlson's Landscaping. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those right now. Thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you have a hand up for Commissioner Nunley and Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Nunley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Second the motion.
Has been moved properly. Second, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright, Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes,
I'm sorry, no?
I said
Correct.
yes.
You said yes? Okay. And Commissioner Albright says he's hearing us, but he's unable to respond.
Thank you very much.
Motion
Hello,
passes unanimously.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Madam Attorney Janice?
Yes, in your package, you have a utility easement that's been requested by Verizon Wireless in order to serve facilities on the roof at DH Conley High School. Because that property is titled in the name of the county as a result of a limited obligation bond borrowing, that would need the county's approval.
You have a hand up by Commissioner Fitzpatrick and Commissioner Ward. And
Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Second the motion.
Has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Madam Attorney again. Thank you.
Yes, we have a similar situation, only this one now with Greenville Utilities Commission. They are rerouting some gas lines in the area of DH Conley and have an area of that property that they need an easement on to finish that project or to work on that project. And so they have offered the county fair, just compensation for the amount of that easement at $1,150. And we're just asking the board, unless you have any other questions, to approve that easement and accept that just compensation.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hands up by Commissioner White and Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Commissioner White?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Fitzpatrick?
Second.
Moving properly second. Madam Clerk?
Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now we have social service request for Jan Elliott, please.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I know I stand between you and being able to sign off on this Zoom meeting, so let's see how we can go through this. I'll be happy to answer any questions as we go. I'm coming here tonight to request a position. It is Adult Protective Services Supervisor position. Typically, I know that we don't come in mid-year to do that kind of thing, but we are at a critical mass right now and believe that this is something that really needs to be done. This was, in fact, part of our budget request that did not pass this past year. It's an area, obviously, of growth. You can look at me and probably several of you all to know that we are aging and we're aging rapidly, and that is a growing segment of our population. So, right now, our adult protective services staff to supervisor ratio is supposed to be 1:5. That would be APS and guardianship have similar ratios. Our current staff to supervisor ratio is 2 supervisors, and we have 14 social workers. So we are not in compliance with that. So why do we need this position at this point? Right now, the complexity of the cases that we're seeing requires a lot of really skilled decision-making. It requires a lot of oversight. It requires that there is 2-level decision-making. It requires regular case staffings with supervisors, and supervisors are the critical oversight for this particular program. Wrong decisions can have serious consequences for those vulnerable and disabled adults that we are already serving or that we are getting referrals on, and they've already suffered from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Some of this is financial exploitation, which is very complex and impacts our older adults in a critical way. Timely initiation is critical. We need to be able to get into that case. Once we get that referral, once we've determined that it is an appropriate case for referral, and we need to move quickly to resolve the issues there. We are charged with protecting the rights of vulnerable adults. All of us have rights. We may choose to live differently, but we are charged with protecting those rights and deciding when the capacity is such that we need to intervene. The supervisor and social worker need to coordinate the benefits that these individuals have to ensure that we can quickly access those benefits so that they can be used to pay for the needs of the citizen. If we cannot access those benefits timely, the county is picking up some of that cost and we are not able to recoup that money. We have seen a 59% caseload growth in the last 7 years, much of that coming in the last couple of years. We saw a 60%, slightly over 60% jump in reports between the last quarter of the fiscal year and the first quarter of the fiscal year. The last quarter of the fiscal year, we had 114 reports. This first quarter, we had 183 reports. We had 611 reports throughout fiscal year 20, and we are certainly tracking towards that, if not more, for this year. So again, caseloads are continuing to increase. Supervisors are charged with screening those reports, and that has to be done prior to the case being assigned to the social worker. Often in screening those reports, the supervisor has to get more information, which may be reaching out and contacting people to gather that additional information. So you are doing that, you're trying to provide supervision, and you're trying to get these cases screened quickly. I will tell you that 75 to 80% of the reports we receive require a social worker intervention. So staff turnover. Staff turnover has increased. It has to do with a lot of things. Agency as a whole in 2019, calendar year 2019, was a little over 12%. In adult services, we saw 24%, and we're already on track this year for a 36% turnover rate. It's due to retirements, burnout, the job's not a good fit, but clearly the supervisor is a real linchpin in that. They do the training, the monitoring, the mentoring, lay that good foundation. If you don't have that, you're going to see more turnover. Right now, our supervisors and our program managers are carrying cases because we do not have, with COVID and everything going on, people on the ground on it every day who are charged with this job. So they have to pitch in. We just had our APS supervisor resign, the only APS supervisor we have. She said she resigned because of the stress of the job, the time commitments. She worried daily about what wasn't being done. She didn't believe she was able to give the staff what they needed, and it was more than one person could do. Increased need for comp time in adult services. We have 1,000 hours of comp time that these 19 staff earn in a 12-month period. These 19 staff that we currently have, and that's in our in-home unit too, do on-call 3 times 3 times a year and for a week at a time. They do intake on a weekly basis and they rotate that. The program managers and supervisors rotate on call on a monthly basis. They each serve a week a month. So when you look at all that and then you add COVID to the mix, and certainly COVID we hope is going to go away, but you have staff that are quarantining awaiting test results. You have a staff that have been exposed to COVID at work. For the most part, our exposure is coming from family exposure, which is also requiring quarantine. And then we have the childcare issue and the educational issue for our staff due to COVID and how that is being managed. We right now have 3 temps through the COVID dollars that the state got for APS. They're working part-time and they're certainly helping to cover some of the on-the-ground needs that we have. Now, I know most of you know about the MOU, and we are not consistently meeting the MOU that we have with the state of North Carolina as it requires for APS. The standard requirement is that 85% of our assessments be completed within 30 days. We met that requirement 3 months out of 8 in the last time frame. So let's hit the right button. So what does this position cost us? For 6 months, which would be the remainder of the fiscal year, it would take a while to recruit and hire. We would estimate with equipment $39,519 is the total cost. You would get 65% federal and state reimbursement. So the county cost would be $13,832. And obviously I don't want this to be just a short-term position. I want this to be a regular position that's ongoing. So the for the annual salary would be $57,389 plus fringe. So just wanted to throw that out. The 65% reimbursement would continue into the next fiscal year. We believe we can cover this entire $13,832 two ways. One, as the COVID monies were paid out when staff were out on COVID leave, that allowed us to maintain some salary and fringe within our regular budget that could be used to cover this. We also have seen our CAP funding increase significantly. The Community Alternative Program has changed the way they are reimbursing counties. And so for the first quarter last year, we got $28,132 in reimbursement. The first quarter this year, we're already at $85,629. And that will continue onward, we believe. That amount of money clearly was not budgeted as revenue for this year because we did not realize we would be getting that level of funding. So we believe between those two, we can cover the cost without any additional county cost. But for the FY21-22 budget, without taking any of those dollars into consideration, the county cost would be $24,914. And with that, I will stop to see what questions people have.
Your hand up, Commissioner Ward.
Okay. Commissioner Ward.
I do not have a question. I wanted to make a motion that we approve this position with the knowledge that we will have to consider it at budget time for the next year.
Hand up by Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Second.
Has been moved and properly second. Madam Clerk.
Chairman McLaughlin.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner comments? Madam Clerk?
McLaughlin.
No comment.
Vice Chairman Colson.
No comment.
Commissioner Albright.
No comment.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
No comment.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
No comment.
Commissioner Nunley,
No comment.
Commissioner Ward,
No comment.
Commissioner White.
I do have a couple of things that I would like to share with the board. First of all, I know that we are not supposed to address in public comments, and I'm not sure if Mr. Whitehurst is still listening on, but I do hope that my comment reaches him. I would like to thank Mr. Whitehurst for having the courage to take a personal tragedy and turn it into something positive. And also, I just wanted to share with the board and everyone listening in that I'm going to be getting county staff to help me develop 2 resolutions to bring before the board, hopefully at our next meeting. One is a resolution that will be declaring Pitt County a sanctuary for small businesses. And the other one is going to be dealing with the fact that the North Carolina Rate Bureau has requested a 24.5% statewide average increase in homeowners insurance that will be effective in August of 2021. So I'm hoping that we can come up with some sort of resolution against this. And I do want to let everybody know that there's a public hearing in Raleigh on December 10th regarding this, because that is a pretty large increase for 1 year. So anyway, I hope that I will have the support of my fellow board members in these 2 resolutions coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
No comment, and I offer the motion that we adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment on Commissioner White's 2 items for the sanctuary for small businesses and homeowners? If she's wanting, normally we bring something forward and then you direct us to vote on it and direct us to create those. If the board is okay with that, we can go ahead and create these for your consideration and bring them forward. We just be skipping a step, but if there's a deadline on this, we wouldn't be able to have these back until, if you brought it back the 7th to discuss it, and then we are directed to develop it, we'd then bring it back to 21st. Otherwise, if you direct us, if we have the consensus of the board to move forward now, we'll work with Commissioner White and just bring it back, and you can consider it fully and vote it up or vote it down, if that works with the board.
I think that would be amenable.
Okay. And you have a hand up, Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Commissioner Ward.
I was going to second the motion for adjournment.
Okay, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
I was going to second both motions.
Okay. All right. Well, we definitely got a second. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Chairman McLaughlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick,
No.
Commissioner Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
No.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White.
So to clarify, we are voting to adjourn.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I work on my resolutions with county staff and email to the full board maybe by the end of the week to just let them know and then get the chairman's approval to put it on the first meeting in December?
Sure. Yes.
All right. Well, then I will second the motion to adjourn. Or I won't second it, but it's been a long day. Yeah. Motion to adjourn. I'll vote yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-2.
Thank you.